Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kuli. So we'll be making this corporate pleated dress, and I have 3 years of fabric here with me. So this is not a circle dress. I know you were thinking that it's a circle dress. This is not a circle dress. You don't cut it as a circle. You just cut a long strip then pleat on it. So let's get started. For you to know the amount to cut, you have to multiply your waist by 3. That is to times your waist by 3. Your waist times 3. If your waist is 32, the waist of the client that I'm working on is 31.5. So times it by 3, you should have around 94.5 or so. So before that, before making a straight, you cut by your width. Like you use the longest part of your fabric, just cut up to that waist. So you go in by 1 inch for the zipper allowance. From that zipper allowance, you place your tape. Then I place my tape to get the 94.5. That is what I'm getting. So when you get that 94.5, when you get to that place, you also add your zipper allowance. You stop at 94.5, you also add 1 inch zipper allowance. That is, the both sides will have 1 inch zipper allowance. You can add more allowance to your zip if you want, but here I'm using 1 inch zipper allowance. So after that, you determine the length of your skirt, the length of your gown. The length of her gown is 38. So you add, you minus 1 inch. Remember, if you look at it very well, you will notice that there's a band. It has a band. So that band is sitting on the underbust. So you minus 1 inch from the skirt, then minus 2 inch from the upper back, upper part of the dress. So I minus 1 inch. That is, 38 minus 1 inch for the band, I have 37. Then plus another 1 inch, that is the sewing allowance, the hemming allowance, and I have 38. So you get your 38. Her underbust is 14. You minus your underbust. Her underbust is 14. So you minus 14. You minus 14 to get 38. So that was what I did here. I minus 14. That is her underbust. I didn't add any inches to her underbust here. So that her underbust, normally if you are making a dress, you add up to 2 inches, that's to get your half length. But here I'm using her underbust, so I minus her underbust to get 38. So I said, I decided to cut it on the floor. That is the long part on the floor, so that you see how long it is. So just make a line, make sure that you have exactly that your size. So this is my 38. If I pleat on it, once you pleat on it, you just have your round waist. That is, her round waist is 31.5. So I will, after pleating on it, it will just look like that flare circle stuff. So we are done with it. So we are done with the damper. Let's cut the upper part. Here is the what I have left of the fabric. So you just fold it into two, unfold the way you cut your normal top. So you just leave it on. We are folding the back first. We are cutting with the back. So, and your zipper allowance, you bring out your zipper allowance of 1 inch. Remember that you left 1 inch. I'm not going to line this. Assuming I was going to line it, I will use 1.5, then use 1 inch, half inch to turn the lining, but I'm not going to line this. So I'm bringing out 1.5 inch for the zipper allowance. So for the underbust, so place to take your measurements. Get your half underbust. This is not all your half length. Get your underbust. If your underbust, her underbust is 14, so 14, I added extra 1 inch. That is for the joining allowance. So I marked at 15 instead of 15, instead of 14. And remember that you are not getting your half length. You know, if it's your half length, you will add extra 2 inches. That extra 2 inches that would have added, I will now add it to the band. So get your your shoulder measurements, place the fabric. Please remember your zipper allowance. Remember to remove your zipper allowance I removed 1 inch for the zipper allowance. And from where you start taking your measurement is that place that your line for the zip stopped. That is where you start taking your measurements from. So you start taking your measurements from that. You get your shoulder measurement. Her shoulder is 14, that is 7. I added half-inch allowance, that is the joining allowance. So from that I went down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. I got her chest line. I used 7.75 for her chest line. I got her round bust measurement, which is around 38, then 9.5. Then I make the mark. I measured her bust. I used 1.5 inches for the allowance, for the swing allowance. I used 1.5. There's no dart. I only added a bust dart to the front. There's no dart, and which it doesn't have a bust dart due to this fabric is so thick. So I added a bust dart so it will help not flatten her bust that much, because there's no dart or bust dart, and the fabric is not stretchy. So I added that to help lift her bust a little. So I got the middle of her armhole. I went in by half-inch. Then I did her armhole curve. That is the front armhole. That is your front armhole. You go in by half-inch because your front armhole is deep. Sorry, I was managing this chalk because I wanted to use the blue chalk because it's the blue chalk that will be visible. So from that point again, I got her neck width. I used 3. Then for the back I used 1. Then the front I used 3. For the neck depth, the back neck depth is 1, the front neck depth is 3. Then I connected it. Please, you know that you're not going to cut the front here. Sorry, I would have drafted this on a pattern paper. Know that you're not going to cut out the front, only cut out the back neckline, then trace the front. So you check to know if your measurements are correct, then you cut it out. That is it. So you now take you place the front. You take the back and place on the front. That is to cut out the front pattern. Here I'll be adding, though the thread doesn't have any dart or buzz dart, but I'll be adding a buzz dart to this because the fabric is thick. It will press down her bust if I don't add like that buzz dart, maybe to help lift it up a bit. So I went down by 1 inch. The front is longer than the back by 1 inch. Reason being that after taking the bust dart, it will go back to the normal length. So the waist, it has a little pleat at the waist part, the middle part of the front part. If you check it has a little pleat. So I extended the waist, the front waist by 1.5 inch. Then I marked the middle of the armhole. This the way I did it. I extended the waist, so just cut exactly the same thing. Please don't cut. Remember to shift your button allow or your zipper allowance if you are placing it on the front, or you cut this on your pattern paper separately. Don't add your zipper allowance to the front. I moved it backward. So just cut exactly the same thing. Don't cut out the front neckline on the back, just trace it out. So when you remove the back, you can now cut the neckline of the front, and that is it. Just cut the back neckline. So I measured, I got the front neckline, and I removed the back to cut out the front neckline, to trace the front neckline very well. So that was it. So you extend the lines very well, make your curve to get meet it to meet your neck width. After getting that, you now trace your armhole, that is your front armhole, and we are done with the front. You just open it and pleat it that way. For you to get your balls, that from the armhole you go down by 2 inches, then you extend it by your boy's point to boss point. I use 4 inches for her boss point. So that is where you hold your dart. Sorry that I couldn't make a video on how you can hold your dart. So here I'm cutting the band. That is the band that will go to the waist. Her waist is 31.5. So on foot I got 15.75 or so, 15.75. But if you are not cutting it on foot, just get exactly your waist. So the width of the the band that I use is 3.5 plus the joining, everything 3.5. So I I I I had to cut it into two. I had two pieces of it. I had two pieces. So for it to be thick, so you just get it. So for us to pleat the skirt, for you to know how to pleat the skirt part, you can hem the down part before pleating it. So you just get this, you remove your zipper allowance. Remember that we have 1 inch zipper allowance. So from that your mark, from that line that you have your zipper allowance, you go in. I use 3 inches for the pleat. That is the, for you to know the space you use for the pleat. If you want it bold, you can use 4. If you want it smaller, you can use 2. You can use 1.5. You can use 1. But I use, but because the for the dress is like they use 3 inches for the dress. So 3 inches is not that bold and it's not that small. So for you to know how to pleat, you pleat from the front. You bring the first one close to the zipper, then you take it back. That's the way you pleat. So make a line. From that line, you have to make the lines before. You have to start from the starting down to the end part where you still have your zipper allowance. You have to mark out the lines before pleating so that you will not be confused or make any mistake. So you pleat front and you pleat back. You bring it front and you take it back. Once you are pleating on it, once you are getting it right, you will know. Look at how it's coming out already. So this is the way you pleat. After pleating, you hold it down with your pin. If you pleat, you hold down with your pin. You have to pleat. You can pleat this one while sewing it on your machine, but it's better. It's best you pleat it this way. Then measure your waist to know if you have. There's no allowance. I didn't add any allowance to read. So you just have to pleat this way, measure your waist and be sure that it's correct before you now attach it to your upper part. So this is way it's coming out already. So I have to do this off camera, give it a good press and bring it back to see the outcome. So to cut out the sleeve length is total length is 17. Remember that I'm going to add a band to this. So I removed 2 inches for the band. Then I 17 minus 2, so that is a total of 15. So you can remove any amount, but I later use 3 inches for the band. So from the line, from your starting line, you go down by 4 inches. That is for the armhole curve. Then you make a slant as you get your cuff measurement, where you take the round measurements where your sleeve is going to stop. So I don't really have a measurement, so I used mine as an example, but I still left enough space. So if it's not her size, I'll just resize it. Then you get the middle of your sleeve, then you go down by half inch. That is for the front armhole, and that is it. So I had 15 instead of 17. I removed 2 inches for the back. For the front, for this sleeve, you can add extra allowance for you to pleat it. I forgot that it has a little pleat at the shoulder pad, shoulder part, and the cuff part. It has a little pleat, but I didn't pleat on it, and there was no enough material for me to start cutting it again. So for the cuff, for the band, I cut out 3.5 inches. So after joining it, I'll have 3 inches or 2.5 inches, and that was it for the band. So I please measure your band, your measurement. That is where your sleeve will stop. You take your round sleeve there. So that is what you do for the. I use facing. So for the facing, you place your neckline, then you measure around the neck. You use 4 inches for the length of the facing. I use 4 inches for the length of the facing. You go around, then you still do the same thing with the back. Start from the zipper allowance, because you're going to cover the zipper allowance. So this is the way you place your facing. Turn it, top stitch, and iron it very well. So this is the band. I have the band already, and I have everything set. So this is the dress. I'm done joining it, joining the sleeve. I've pleated the front. I didn't really pleat the front. You get the middle of the front, then I used a gather, a loose gather. I gathered it a bit for it to be. I gathered it, then placed it on the back to make sure they are the same size and they are equal. So that is the part that I gathered. Just make a notch at the middle of the dress, the top, then pleat it, everything, pleat it to the middle of that place, and make sure they are equal and nice. So that is where you start adding it from. I also added the band to the sleeve, but if you check very well, you see that I gave one inch or half inch extension. So if it's too big, I'll reduce it. If it's too tight, I will still reduce it. So that is the essence for the allowance. You can still know, you can still give it if you are making for someone you did not measure her round sleeve. So here is how to attach the sleeve. So you just place it this way, close the side, close both the side, then bring the front, then you start this thing. You place the wrong side facing each other, then turn it. After sewing it, sorry, you will leave, you have an opening. You make 4 inches, you from the sleeve. Before you join the band, you measure the sleeve from the starting, from the cuff part. You go in by 4 inches, make a knot there, then double fold it. Fold it, that is to leave that space. You see, on if you check shirt, you see that they don't close it up. So that is the space you will leave, and that is the length I use is 4 inches. Then you add your band. It's just simple. Then for you to know how to add this, you place, you have joined the back and the front, and I've joined the sleeve. So you get the middle of the front. Then for the for the skirt part too, you get the middle of the skirt. Then the band too, you get the middle. Not all the middles. That is where you place together. You place the notch parts together before you join. And this is the zipper allowance too. So you will not join it, you will not close the zipper allowance until you finish joining them. Please, if you are joining, make sure that everything aligns together. Make sure they are equal. Make sure you can pin it down so that it doesn't move, but make sure they are equal. Everything is equal with the band and the zipper. Make sure the zipper aligns to the band. You know that you are going to start you are going to start placing this from the back. That is from the zipper side. You place from zipper side, from one end of the zipper side to the other end. So this is the band. I have two strip already. If we I wanted to turn it so that I'll close up the rough side, but I'm just going to overlock it. So I placed the band together. I reduced it because of the length. Maybe it was up to 4. I reduced it to 3.5. So after joining it, it will go to 3 or 2.5. So you just join the two together. You can see the notch part. You take the notch part of the skirt and the notch part of the band and place together. Then drag it, make sure it aligns with the zipper. From that part, make sure that they align. So just measure your length very well, make sure the length, the waist size is equal with the upper part and with the down part, and that is it. Make sure they aligns very well, and no side is longer than the other side. They should be equal, very very equal. Hold down with a pin if you don't want them to move. So when you get to the seam, there's no side seam, like I didn't create a side seam for the band or the skirt, so you just fold this way so that you don't have it puffing out. So you just hold to get to the zipper allowance, and make sure the zipper allowance for the skirt and the band aligns together with the top. So that is what you should like be. You can notch the band to get the side seam so that they will align very well. So this is how simple this dress is, and this is the way you do it. So I'll just go and hold it down. Just hold it down and we are done with this dress. So guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, as we wait for the next video. Thank you guys.